to our mini mobility series. Today we are going to be working on the hips, the lower back and the hamstrings, and we've got 6 great movements for you today, and we're going to work through those together. You don't need a lot of equipment. You'll need a ball, whether you have a lacrosse ball or not. You could also use a tennis ball, a cricket ball, whatever else you've got at home.
Get into our free Bulldog Drive giveaway and you'll get one of these bad boys.
That's it. So we're doing that every day this week. You get the chance to win one of these. And then you'll need either a yoga strap, a belt or a towel. So I'm sure you've got one of those things lying around. So
If you don't have a towel.
Yeah, you'll have a towel. You'll have a towel. So we're going to start with pigeon. You've maybe heard of this before, so we're going to come down onto our mats. Don't need anything for this. Now, getting into pigeon pose from a yoga point of view is it's actually easier to do coming up from a table position, and then even from a plank position, bringing your knee up between your hands. Okay?
There's an old man version of that, which I'm going to do, which is to use a sofa, armchair, tabletop, something. There we go.
Okay, now I am not a yoga instructor, so forgive me if I don't think of every single cue to give you, but I would be working to make my front leg as parallel as feels comfortable.
Knee dependent.
Knee dependent. You do what feels good for you. That is one thing with these yoga stretches. You shouldn't be forcing yourself into them.
No.
Go to a point that feels a little uncomfortable, like you are stretching, but not to a point where you're feeling pain or you're sort of all of a sudden stiffening up everywhere else and holding your breath because it's so terrible. So find something and then gently work into the space that feels uncomfortable. Don't be sort of feeling the need to, don't sort of roll out and away from it because you're not going to be getting the stretch. Try and keep your body straight, parallel, you know, directly over your leg. And that leg behind you, try to keep the knee as much as you can on the ground, nice and straight behind you, the top of the foot on the ground. And even just a little lean, keep the back flat, a little lean forward, you should feel a really good stretch there up round the buttock and hip.
And the reason that I like to use this modified version is I don't have as good mobility in my hips, and this just means I can get really deep stretch across the across my glutes, across my bum, just here, and just get straight into it without having to think too much about. I mean, I would have to warm up my hips to get into the same position as Sarah's in, and that kind of defeats the point, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be warming up to do some kind of stretching, cool down thing, right? I mean, I'm not going into battle.
No.
You should be able to get into a position that feels right for your body. So this modified version that I'm doing, I just get straight into it. It's great.
Yeah, if you're doing actually either one, actually try and keep your foot flexed as well. So this is an active leg in some ways, and if you feel that actually, okay, I'm getting a bit of a stretch, but I could go a bit further, then lean forward. Don't hunch over like this. Keep the back flat so you are hinging still from your hip. And if you feel that you can get down into, down onto your forearms, brilliant. And maybe even stick out your elbows and bring your head down to the ground. But that's okay if you can't do that. You could even straighten your arms out in front of you if you really need to. And that certainly gives me a nice stretch up under my armpits as well.
Sarah has now stretched out so much has gone off video. You won't even be able to see that.
Anyway, so then just curl your toes under if you're on the floor. Hands nice and flat on the ground and push up. Put that leg back and do a swap. So you're bringing forward your knee between your hands and sitting down. I'm a lot looser on this side, so I find this position a lot easier.
Oh, I'm much
with
tighter.
my left on the front.
I'm having a little bit of tightness tightness on my left hand side generally, just knee, hip, glute, the whole thing. I'm so much tighter on my left hand side. Guess what? It's all connected, right?
And if you can, another little tip, I suppose, to try and get more of a stretch. If you're doing it like this with your leg behind you on the floor, thinking about making contact with the ground with your back leg. So that top of your thigh, can you get that onto the ground? And I find that just encourages me to straighten my hip ever so slightly and get a little bit more of a stretch around the back. And think about flexing this foot. Can you get it parallel? Again, this is something I'd probably warm up for a little bit more here. So don't force it. If it feels more comfortable at a bit of an angle, then go with that. But then if you want to, lean out across your leg. Come down onto your forearms if you want to.
Meanwhile, I'm just hanging out here in the old man position.
It's all good. Start where you're at.
Alrighty.
Okay? That's pigeon.
Whew, that feels good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do something with the ball now. And unlike the stretching positions that Sarah's just talked us through, these smash positions, how do they work? Why do they work? Well, imagine you've got a knot in your muscle. Imagine my t-shirt is my muscle. I've got a knot here. Oops. Get a knot. Okay. Look what happens to the point at which my muscle is attached down at the bottom and the top of my t-shirt, right? It's pulling.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, and that's where you get pain, that's where you get pain in tendons, and that's where you start to have problems. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the knot, loosen that up, and guess what? We've got more slack in the system. Okay, so it's quite different to stretching.
Yeah.
And that's why the lacrosse ball is really good for smashing. So let me just jump into the front of the mat, and Sarah, if you want to take the position back here. We're going to start with glute smash. I'm going to start on my left hand side because that's my not so good side. So I take the ball and I sit on it. It's that simple. Straight out the leg, the ball is that I'm sitting on. And I just want to noodle around until I find a spot that feels sensitive, and it shouldn't take that long, right?
We did ball balls yesterday.
Yeah. You should find little spots. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to melt the ball through those little spots. And the best way to do that is to take a big breath in, contract your bum, and breathe out. And let all of the tension go. All of the tension go, Sarah. Not kind of, oh yeah, that's enough. No, all the way through.
I feel like I'm poking a bruise.
Right, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to push that ball through the tight muscle spots, myofascial trigger points, to give them their proper term. And our fascia is sliding surfaces that help our muscles and tendons move smoothly. And what happens, particularly in our butt, is whenever we sit down all day, we laminate our fascia together and we get all sticky, so it doesn't slide, doesn't allow our muscles and tendons to move smoothly. So what we're doing is we're finding these little bits of built up fascia that have stuck together, and we're literally smashing them apart.
I think I'm officially laminated.
Okay, find another spot.
I'm finding a lot.
Okay, find one more spot. Big breath in, big breath in. All the way out, all the way out, all the way out, all the way out. Alrighty. Now, we're going to stay in roughly the same position, but this time we're just going to roll over onto our hips.
Okay.
Keeping the ball still on our glutes.
Yeah.
We're just going to with some kind of
Oh.
wheel smash. Oh yeah. Now, we're not going to do. I'm just going to demo this on one side because, you know, I would probably spend at least 5 to 6 minutes on this one side, and that's, you know, 12 minutes of watching us smash our butts, and you know that's not entertainment for anybody. So I would suggest 5 to 6 minutes on each side, and we're just about to come up to the outside of our hip flexors, our hip capsule. And again, if you find janky little spots, big breath in, contract the muscle, let it all the way out, and really let it all the way out. You can kind of convince yourself you'll let it out. Yeah. Okay, now here we go. This is the thing. Stand up. Unfortunately, my head will disappear off the video. Right. Squeeze your butt as hard as you can.
Both sides.
Both sides. Which is stronger? Left hand side you've been working on? Or
I've
what's
been
it?
working on
You've been
my
working
right.
And is the right hand side feeling it's got more contractions,
It
right?
feels like there's more to it.
Yeah, superpower. There we are. Supercharged brain of rock and roll. Okay, superhumans. Done.
Great. Right.
You're up next.
I'm up next. Yeah, we're going to do some down dog now. Okay,
You
it's
can go
probably
Front and
one.
center.
Okay, one again, another yoga pose, and one that you have probably come in contact with before. We will start. Let's go down on our knees onto hands and feet, tabletop. Okay, so starting here, your hands should be down below your shoulders. Nice straight line, hands spread out. Okay, your knees about hip width apart, directly down below your hips. Okay, and to get into the position, what we're going to do is we're going to tuck our toes under, okay, and think more about your butt lifting up your body rather than your hands pushing or your feet moving. So I'm thinking about lifting up with my bum, okay, and pushing the ground away with my hands. I'm up on my toes at the minute, but slowly, as you come up into the position, lower those feet as much as you can. Now this is another example where you don't want to force it. Don't force anything. I find I quite like to walk the dog here, which is take one at a time of my heels down to the ground.
You're walking the dog. I think the dog's strangling me.
So you're pushing away with your hands, nice and splayed fingers on the ground, so you've got weight spread, okay? Your head is through. It's not forced though. You're looking between your legs, sort of towards, you've got a gaze that's kind of aiming towards your navel, but your head should be relatively loose, okay? The butt's going to the ceiling. You should be feeling a good stretch down the backs of the legs. Okay, you are aiming for a straight back. I sometimes have a bit of a problem here because I end up going concave, which really isn't the aim of the game.
There's Sarah showing off again. I don't have that
well,
problem.
it's not really showing off. It's a bit. Sometimes flexibility isn't necessarily a good thing.
Oh, right.
However, okay, and then come out of that. Come back over your hands into a plank. And down onto your knees and uncurl your toes.
So something that's quite different about that team by comparison to the thing that we'll do at the gym. So whenever we're warming up for CrossFit, typically we go into a position that looks a lot like that. You'll hear me talk about it as pass-throughs. And the focus on our pass-throughs is primarily actually on our shoulders and our lats.
Yeah.
And that's why when you see me do those, I'll go really wide. So whenever I do the pass-throughs, I'll go quite wide
Mhm.
because really the focus here
Yeah.
Is
it's
on
up here.
is on my lats and my T-spine.
Mhm.
Whereas in downward dog, when we come in, the focus absolutely is more on our hamstrings.
Yeah.
So just a little difference for those of you who've been following along our CrossFit at home stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, hamstring stretch. I need a volunteer partner. Any volunteers? Oh, hello. Right. Lie down. Lie down on your tummy.
Okay.
Lie down
Here?
that way. Come this way so people can see at home.
Okay.
Alrighty. So my head will disappear off the video. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use my foot
Oh gosh.
as a way to work from the top, just underneath Sarah's butt, all the way down to her knee. And I'm going to work on one side one way and then the other side the other way. So I'm starting, I put my heel just beneath her bum, and I'm putting my weight then from heel to toe, and I go that way,
Mhm.
and I go down.
Be gentle.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be more sensitive where you are now.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. It's quite nice actually.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
I'm going from the inside,
Yeah.
and I'm squishing to the outside, and I'm working my way down.
Get into the, the nervous laughter moment.
Yeah.
It's alright.
Okay. Now the other alternative, it's the same movement. I'm going to just demo it on Sarah's other leg because it's easier. I'm going to go from the outside,
Mhm.
and I'm going to go to the inside.
Mhm.
So I would need to repeat that both ways on both legs. But in the interest of time, I'm not going to burden you with that.
Mhm.
Now, interestingly, Sarah's not having as much a reaction on this leg going that way. Yeah, you're more sensitive on your right leg.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's a good one if you've got a partner and you want to do something slightly different.
Mhm.
The other alternative for that theme, of course, is to take your ball
I'm going to turn your way.
and do almost exactly the same thing. You might find that the ball is just a little bit too small. If I want a bigger one. Bigger ball. Perfect. If you've only got the little one, other alternative for that is to sit on the edge of the sofa. Oh yeah, there you go. There, right, and just noodle, not up and down, but left to right as you look at it.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is our muscles and our fibres they predominantly run up and down our leg. So you're just going straight up and down their normal line of action. And what you want to do is you want to scrub left to right, and that helps break down that fascia that I was telling you about. Not break it down, it just helps release it, open it up. You don't want to break it down, we need it, it's important.
Yeah. And I guess the firmer the thing you sit on, the more noticeable the ball is.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do this on the edge of a table, for example, or if you've got a hard chair,
There's nowhere to go.
you got a hard chair, it's like
Yeah.
so good. So either you got your partner hamstring stretch or ball smash for your hamstrings.
Mhm. And I'll do the next one, which is continuing with the hamstring. We're going to use our towel or our belt or our strap for this. Just keep that all there.
Get ready to laugh at this team.
There might be a distinct difference in what John and I are doing here.
Thanks for the motivation, coach.
Right, so you're going to start by sitting in staff pose, I guess. So your legs are straight out in front of you, and try to keep your foot flexed through this movement. We're going to loop our strap around our foot, and we're going to lie back. So nice and straight legs. And all we're going to do is we're going to use the strap to pull our leg up. Now, be careful not to do what I'm doing here and just be completely forcing that knee out. It's okay to have a little micro bend in it. You don't want to be forcing your leg into uncomfortable positions, but you do. Now, ideally, in yoga, we would have made sure that we had straight arms whilst we were doing this as well. So you are actually holding the strap relatively close to your foot.
It's all relative, right? Depends how far away your foot is.
Also, yes, exactly. Depends how long your legs are and all of that. Try to make sure that you have the strap across the ball of your foot, not in the arch of your foot, because you won't get as much traction. It probably also be quite uncomfortable if you're pulling hard. Keep your back nice and flat. Try to limit the gap below your, the lower part of your back and the floor. And the leg on the floor can still be active, so still keep it flexed, keep your toes up, and tuck your chin in, so you're trying to make a nice flat spine, straight spine. Now, if you feel like it, you could move left and right a bit. You might find one space, I certainly find as I veer over centre, it starts to get a bit of a spicy stretch on.
Alternatively, stay completely static.
Or just stay where you
That's
are.
all you've got.
If you feel you can pull it towards you a little bit more, then move your hands up the strap a bit more. If you need to take a little break, then just loosen it and then come back in.
Something to note in this one thing is it's important to not be passive. So what I mean by that is, so my hamstrings are particularly tight, right? And that's 20 years of sitting at a desk and not doing any mobilization work. And I'm feeling a stretch through my hamstrings here, but I'm not just being passive. I'm actively squeezing my thigh, right? So I'm trying to straighten my leg up as much as I can. And even just cycling through a few little knee bends, really helps promote a little, because you're trying to strengthen as much as stretch, right? So we want to stretch and strengthen. There's no point in being really stretchy and really weak, because
that's where I'm coming from.
Because you just fall over, right? So
just bringing it across the body is good. Just a little. And if you're feeling like, well, this is easy, you could also take it out the way.
Right, I'm gonna do one.
Yeah. Swap over. Okay, make sure you've got it across your. There we go.
Is it just me, or is it 500 degrees in this room?
The sun is getting warmer.
Or is it just my lack of mobility in my hamstrings?
So make sure that leg that's on the floor is still active, toes up, and give your leg that's in the strap, give that, flex those toes, point that heel to the ceiling, and you'll feel the stretch down the back of the leg even more. Pull it up as though your intention is to pull it towards the floor behind your head, but again, make a judgment on how far you are going to take it, and it will be different for everyone.
Oh yeah.
A little trip across the body. Woo! I feel that very quickly, whereas I would be looser out the way, but bringing it across is spicy. Just be gentle coming back out a bit as well. Bend that knee a little bit. Lower it gently. Oh.
Alrighty.
Okay, finish us off.
Not finish it off.
No, not in that sort of sense.
To finish off with.
I guess it depends how hard you've been working. And actually it's quite a nice one to come straight into from down dog, so I'm just going to show you from there as well. So we've been in our down dog posture, okay, and then we come back out into our plank, down, and then we push back with our hands, uncurl our toes, back into child's pose. Okay, so there's a few different ways you can do this, and because this is a stretch, you make a choice. So I have my toes touching, but my knees are spread. Okay, so there's space for the trunk of my body coming down towards the ground. My hands are far out in front of me, my arms are straight, and I'm still splaying my fingers, making full contact with the ground. And I'm tucking my head in, so at the very least my forehead is on the ground. If you've got some good flexibility and you feel like an extra stretch, you can tuck a little bit more, bring your chin in towards your chest and see if you can get the crown of your head on the ground. But go where you can. And think about really pushing the ground away, your bum coming down towards your heels. And if you're pushing well and you've got good straight arms, you should be feeling a stretch up in your armpits, round the sort of outer part of your shoulder as well.
So the points of performance here are, as best you can, bum on your heels,
Yeah,
straight arms,
yeah.
the straightest arms you can make.
So you should be feeling that stretch around the armpit and coming down the side of your rib cage. And what we'll do now is keeping your head with, perhaps not with that full tuck, but with your forehead on the ground. Let's go for a little walk with our hands. So you choose which side to go first. I'm going to bring my hands round to my right. So stretch that hand on the right out and bring the left hand round on top of it.
Oh, on top of it, huh?
Yep. If you can, and push away. Get that. Keep thinking about your bum to your heels, and feel that lovely big stretch down the left hand side of your rib cage. And just breathe through it. Oh. It's easy when things get tight to, our breathing becomes very short. But if we can try and focus on the breath even when it's uncomfortable, we'll ease into it a lot better. Okay, so come back round to centre. And then let's go round to the other side. Bring our outer arm, our outer hand round and on top. Still getting the butt to the heels.
And here's a point to be aware of. Even though the majority of this stretch, I'm going to talk from a personal perspective, feels as if it's in my lats, running down from my shoulders down to my, well, just underneath my shoulders, yeah, my lats. They are the first muscles in this position to get stretched. They're known as a global muscle, basically a big muscle that does a lot of work. However, when you hold in this position and your global muscles get as stretched out as they will be, then you get into your local minor muscles, and the one that we're really targeting here is our QL. Our QL is one of the muscles that make up our lower back muscles, and if you've got any kind of sciatic pain, or you got any kind of discomfort in your lower back, even though this position at first feels as if it's just a stretch for your lats, once you melt into it and you hold it for a while, those local muscles will start to feel the benefit. So you do need to hold this for a good few minutes Now you don't have to be in one position, you can go from left to right, but you really need to work on this one for a few minutes to enable your local, more local muscles to start to feel the benefit.
And another one which takes the relaxation a little bit further is if you bring your legs together ever so slightly, bring your knees closer together, keep your head down if you can, and then bring your arms directly behind you. Okay, so your forearms, if you like, your lower arm, toes still together, but your lower arms are in contact with the ground. And if you can, this is a good spot here to tuck your head in, but with the aim of loosening your shoulders here and really letting go. That's slightly less pressure there.
Okay, gonna wrap it up with one more.
Okay.
This one's easy. This is the Mr. Burns slump.
Okay.
So seated position, stretch back, high head, imagine the whole string thing pulling you up. And then from here, I'm just going to slump and round down and come up and just slump. Like imagine the worst posture you've ever thought of possible. That's it. And then go back up again. Now you gotta wonder, why is it imagine the worst possible posture? Like, is that not the thing we're not supposed to be doing? Well, our spines are supposed to move through flexion and extension. Like our spines are supposed to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, guess
You
what?
wouldn't be able to do it.
They wouldn't be able to do it. So we need to make sure we introduce that range of motion. Now we don't ever want to be doing this when we're lifting, alright?
No.
But just in everyday life,
Mm-hmm.
we should be able to do this pretty comfortably. Okay, so conscious we've given people a bunch of stuff to do today, right? And some of it will feel really good and some of it will feel like you might need to put a little bit more effort into it. In terms of time for all of them, I would work through that flow approximately trying to spend 3 to 4 minutes on each.
Yeah.
Again,
Maybe some you might want to spend longer on than others.
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, one of the reasons that we have all of this mobility stuff set up in our living room is because it's right in front of the TV. And means we can binge watch your favourite box set and do mobility at the same time. So 2 in 1. Alright, team? Anything
Yeah.
else?
No, that's us.
Ready to rock and roll? See you for the next one.
Bye.
Bye.